Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the B&H Virtual Event Space. Very happy to welcome back to the event space audio design desks, Gabriel Cowan and Jared Otto. Fellas, gentlemen, how we doing today?
Great. Beautiful day.
Yeah, doing so good. So well.
Gabe, you really sold me on that one. I really bought into that. Great. So we're talking about the DAW, well, the DAW, right? The DAW. Try to hide my Brooklyn accent over here, but within your editor. So they'll be talking about that. If you do have any questions, please feel free to get them in. If you're joining us here on Zoom, use the Q&A tab. If you're joining us on Vimeo or Facebook, go ahead and use the comment section. But otherwise, I'm going to turn the tables over to Jared and Gabe. Say thanks again for joining us, and a quick thanks to our sponsors over at Audio Design Desk. See you gentlemen back in a bit.
Sweet. Thank you. Jared, maybe we'll just do quick introductions. Hi, I'm Gabe. I'm the CEO of Audio Design Desk.
Yeah, and I'm Jared, and I am a VP of Product Development here.
Yes, sir. We've been working together for a little while, and what we're trying to do is we want to make audio easy for you. It's such an important part of the experience when you're watching a video. It could be a short, it could be your kid's soccer game, it could be a feature film. The audio experience is extremely important in terms of user engagement. In fact, it's 87% more likely to be engaged with when there's videos with sound. So what we've done is we've built a digital audio workstation that's bundled with a giant royalty-free library. We have like 70,000 sounds, more sounds coming out each week. And there's a certain level of intelligence that makes it really easy to find, place, replace, construct your audio for your video, whatever it is you're doing. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to jump in and just kind of explain a couple of the key concepts. Then I'm going to hand it over to Jared, who's going to kind of do an aspirational feature film. And then we'll jump back to me and I'll kind of slow it down and show a couple of the specific features inside of Final Cut Pro in this case. But it's also, we're about to release our Premiere extension and our Blackmagic Resolve extension as well. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to share sound, and there may have to be a quick audio. Yep, here we go. So we'll go over to Zoom. Yes. And Jared, just real quick, can you hear this? Sweet. So we have sound. Okay, so this is Final Cut Pro. The system works very similarly in Resolve and Premiere as well. And this is our extension for Final Cut Pro. And if you click on our icon here, our software will pop up. One of the first things that you notice is when I move the timeline in Audio Design Desk, it's controlling the timeline in Final Cut Pro. I have a few things in the timeline here. So I have a 15-second trailer from that show, The Strain. I have a fight scene from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and I have sort of a person in outer space floating around in a title. And we're just going to really quickly give you the 10,000-foot view of what our software does. We've broken sound into three categories. So when you're approaching sound, our thought is there are three different approaches. One is sound effects, footsteps, people punching each other, breaths, things that you would hear from the film itself. Another is sound design, hits, rises, drones, transitions. These are musical type elements, but that are built specifically to accent visual moments. And then music, of course, finding the right music cue. You can also make your own music using our system. And Jared's going to show that off a little bit. So starting with sound design. Our system understands where each sound connects to visuals. So if you're looking to make, so I'm going to do a rise to hit that's up against this frame. I'll press the letter R for rise and the letter H for hit, and I'll just make this a little bit bigger. And the system just randomly brought in, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of sounds, this rise to hit. Let's take a listen. So that didn't feel right to me, which is great because I can hit replace and it will keep that connection point with the visual and instantly felt a lot better, right? So you can experiment, right, with trying different ideas, but you also can give it instructions. I can say, you know what, I want this to be really low intensity. And then when I select these and I hit replace, it'll be this much more low intensity feeling versus high intensity. And you can see down here that it's switching. That last one was 2,700 files. This is now choosing from 90. And so using this idea, R rise, H is hit, T is transition, D is drone. I can push D for drone and it'll bring in a drone. And every time I see a cut point here, I'll push T for transition. And we're just going to kind of make our outline of the sound for this piece. And I think that there's something here right after the title. It's going to premiere on August 28th. I wonder what year that was. Jared, any idea?
I want to say that was like 2018, maybe 2019.
Yeah. And so now we've made our first piece. Let's listen to it, and then we'll go back and we'll tweak it, and we'll move on to the sound effects. Okay, so I actually quite liked that. It was keeping it the intensity feeling. I'm going to undo intent. Maybe I'll have it be intensity 4 and 5 now. We'll just replace it one time, and we'll give us one more option of things. So when your producer comes in and they say, that doesn't feel right, you can say, how about this? And instantly. Perfect. Great. So turn that in. Charge for an entire day. I think it took us 30 seconds. So sound effects. I've seen like this with lots of, a fight scene like this. You're going to have to bring in tons of stems, right? Of footsteps and female vocalizations, whooshes, swooshes. You're going to have to chop every one of those up and manually place them, going frame by frame. Then you're going to drag the thing over. You're going to place it right there. You're going to then drag the next thing over. You're going to drag it right to there. And there's no mechanism inside of these systems to replace the sounds with alternates. In our system, you can take sounds and apply them to your QWERTY keyboard or to a MIDI keyboard. We also work with the Stream Deck, which is a really cool integration, so that when I press the number 1 on my QWERTY keyboard, it's going to bring in a whoosh. And remember, each one of those sounds knows where it connects to the visual. So you don't have to worry about this as the user, but the system knows that it's a special spot that it connects with. When I push number 2, it's going to bring in some sword clanks. Number 3 is going to be female vocalizations, etc. And so now, instead of spending literally all day on a scene like this, I'll bring in a little piece of music just to have something underneath. I can, in real time, I'm just building this in real time. Right? So it's that easy. It's basically all happening right away. The other thing that's important to note is our system, our timeline is content aware. So it's kind of unbelievable to me that, it's dangerous because at some point other DAWs are going to copy us. But it's unbelievable to me that Pro Tools, Logic, Ableton, Premiere, they don't know what's in the timeline. So Pro Tools doesn't know that's a drum beat and that's a bass line, that's a guitar part, that's a swoosh and a whoosh and the sword clanks in this case. Our system knows everything that's in it. So we can say, hey, let's take all those swords hitting swords, and you'll see they're selected here. And let's turn this into a lightsaber battle. So I'm just going to type in lightsaber. And in a moment, lightsaber is going to come up, and I'm just going to select these. Shift return is the magic button there. And again, this is just an overview. We're going to slow things down a little bit. Now the whooshes are all selected. I can say lightsaber whip, and in that much time, we now have a lightsaber battle. So easy. Like something that used to be impossible is now not only possible, but super, super simple to do. Okay, so that's sound design and sound effects. Just gonna get rid of all of this real quick. The next piece is, which is for some users, the most used piece, is finding the right music cue. There's a lot of ways to do this inside of Audio Design Desk, but I'm just going to start with a blank slate. I'm going to push the letter Z, which will bring in a random music cue from thousands of music cues. And then I'm going to press Command R to audition different ideas. By the way, just quickly to say, the way that I was doing it before Audio Design Desk is I'm in my edit, I'm feeling real good, it's time to bring in some music. I have to leave my program, go to some website, log in, search and filter. These websites have great music, but the process of finding that music is totally disconnected from my video editing experience. So now I'm outside of my video editor. I'm listening to these things. I'm filtering through these terms. I'm guessing because I'm not watching it with the movie. I'm downloading, go to the downloads folder, got to drag it into the timeline, place it up. It's all disconnected from the editorial, process, from that creative process. So I'll just one more time, I'll delete this, and you push Z and you'll see it brought in a different cue. And I'm just going to randomly do this for a minute until I find something I like by pressing Command R. It's kind of interesting, but now, the comedy. Let's try something else. Maybe something like this actually works pretty well. Let's try something else. Oh, totally different. Let's try something shorter. Whales. So you can see it's a totally different feeling. I can also go over here and I can say, okay, drama. And now every time I hit replace, it's going to replace with a dramatic cue. So or I can say, let's go to emotional. And now every time so you can give it instructions. I can talk intensity, complexity. I could type in keywords. So actually this feels pretty good. I like this. Let's try something like that. Okay, we'll go with that. So the last thing I'm going to show really quick is that's how easy it is to find a music cue. The last thing I'm going to show is titles. So all the time I have this happen as an editor where, I'm doing a project. Almost every single project I can think of doing has some kind of title, and they come to me, or I build them like this. They have no sound. And the process of creating the sounds for that title and having it actually line up with the title itself is extraordinarily time consuming. In our system, I'm just see that there's some movement here. So maybe I'll type in actually motion, because I see that there's some motion here. And now I'll press the letter T a couple of times. Oops, here we go. And I'll press H for hit. Oh, haha. Just kidding. Motion. One more time. Get rid of these. Press T a couple of times and H for hit. And now we'll move over to here. And as they come out, I'll push T a few more times. Maybe we'll bring in, I don't usually do this, but special for you guys, I'll bring in a musical element here and we'll see how that all reads. That was pretty cool. Let's select these and replace. Let's try a new thing. And I'll maybe put this musical element up here. Let's try that. Great. Perfect. Sounds like Hulu, sounds like Netflix, sounds like something you would hear. So it's that easy to create sounds for your visuals. There's all sorts of other things that we'll go over when we come back to me in terms of how you get in and out of Final Cut Pro and some other things that I'm going to show you about our widget right here. But now I'm going to hand it over to Jared, who's going to show you Aspirational Project.
Yeah, thank you, Gabe. And we're basically just going to show how we would use a lot of these features in context with a feature film. And the feature film that we have here, we're going to say that we just cut together this quick fight scene from the film Sleepy Hollow here. And let's start up here. And it's a quick fight scene across a bridge here. It leads, spoiler alerts, it kind of leads up to this one guy getting chopped in half by the Headless Horseman. But it's a great scene because there's tons of sound to it, tons of action, and we've got to get this done quick and efficiently. So as I was editing it together, you notice that I've left a lot of markers to myself. And the markers, I've said things like, oh, I want to hit here, or let's add, oh, that one's another hit, a transition here. Towards the end, I think maybe like right here is a hit as well. This is a rise out here, I believe. Yep. And I started it with an ambient. So basic, just like notes to myself or the sound editor of what I would want in the scene. So now that we've got that in, we're ready to bring this project into Audio Design Desk using our ADD Audio Bridge here. And with the Audio Bridge, all we have to do is grab the project, go into the Audio Bridge, select send session data, and then that'll pop up in Audio Design Desk. And you notice that it's automatically populating my entire timeline with sounds related to what I wrote into those markers there. So I have the hits, I have transitions, I have a rise, as well as I have that nighttime ambience. And let me zoom out just a little bit here. We've got the ambience is pretty long, so we can trim these in and look at things a little cleaner. All right, so we've got those sounds that we're able to automatically populate, and that's because, again, Audio Design Desk is able to read the information on all of these markers and go through our library, find sounds related to it, and place it there on the timeline for us. So let's just go ahead, let's listen to it and see how it did. And let's get Final Cut to catch up here. Okay, so I like a lot of the types of sounds here, but the sounds themselves I feel like are a little eclectic. We got some stuff from Cyborg, some organic things, some futuristic things all mixed together here. And we kind of want to make this a little more cohesive as like a horror organic sounds. So first thing I noticed is that I actually want this ambience to be a little bit quieter. So I'm just going to select it and bring it down in the mix by pressing Shift down, which is our quick mixing hotkeys there. And this Rise.
Can you turn on your Keycaster so we can see what keys you're pressing?
Absolutely. I am sorry that I forgot to do that already.
I want to fill the space with a little story about time I was a child. I'll tell that story later.
I was excited to see where that was going. Honestly, I was going to let it happen. All right. So now we can see all the keys I'm pressing down here at the bottom. They'll pop up for you. Back to this Rise. This Rise, I kind of want it to be a little more across the scene this way and a little less across the scene going that direction. So I could press Command R or Command up and down to get longer and shorter like Gabe was showing earlier. Or we can actually just use the magic marker here to really specify what kind of sound we are looking for. So if I press Option up, I get our magic marker where I can find very similar sounds to what is placed here. I could even type in Rise if I wanted to see specifically Rises with Rise metadata on it. I could go to my genre here. I could say horror, because this is a horror clip. We could also specify that we want this to be very intense, maybe just only intensity 5. And then we can select this and listen to it. Let me get zoom out of the way here. And then we can just kind of
want to change your subcategory
to
element
elements. We can listen to this. I want this orchestral one. I bet this is going to be good. Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what I was imagining for this scene. So I can just press return, and I now have that Rise placed right there in the timeline at the moment that the original Rise was placed. So what if I wanted to do that for the whole project? All I have to do is go to my replace settings. I can select intensities 5 and 4. Let's maybe also type in element here. And let's also select horror. So basically the same thing we just did in that magic marker. Now I can select all of these. I can press Command R. And I have an entirely new composition ready to go for all of our sounds here. And now that we've kind of got some of these down, we can go back through and we can listen. I'm actually going to use the magic marker on this again, just to change out of our elements. So let's just get that one, and let's get this one as well. Awesome. That one could be pretty cool. And we can then select all of these, and we could, as I was showing earlier, just keep pressing Command R over and over until we get different sounds. But let's listen to it. All right, that one might be a little too long there. Awesome, I like that. Let's also bring down that ambience a little bit more. It's a little loud. I kind of wanted a little fade on that little horn transition. But overall, I feel like that really came together. And this is what we were looking to hear when all these sounds came in. Just a couple of quick little adjustments, and we now have our sound design set for this scene. So the next thing we would want to go to is we want to start adding the Foley for this scene. And as Gabe was saying earlier, adding Foley can be the most time-consuming process of any sound design or sound editing process, because you're grabbing stems, bringing them in, chopping them up into elements, syncing them to video. If you don't like it, you got to delete them, restart the whole thing. But we've created this triggers window down here in the bottom left of Audio Design Desk. And in the triggers window, you'll see that we have the numbers 1 through 0. That's actually the 1 through 0 key at the top of my QWERTY keyboard. So if I were to go to search and I were to say something like sword hit, maybe, let's type that in. So if we were to go look for sword hits, when once they all populate here, it's got to search through the entire library for a second. We could select a bunch of these. We could drag it down right onto our empty trigger. And now every time I press the 0 key, I get one of these sounds at random placed right at the moment of the playhead. And to save some time, I've actually gone ahead and populated a lot of these triggers already with sword stabs, sword clashes. We've got guys grunting, sword whooshes, body falls, and footsteps. And we could just scrub through our timeline right here. Let's reconnect our bridge here. All right, I accidentally exited out of that. So we could just scrub through one frame at a time. And right where they clash swords, I could press 4 for the sword whoosh, 6 for the sword clash, and 5 for the guys grunting. And that's already a significantly faster way of adding Foley than anything we've been doing in the past. But since we're all about saving time and being as efficient as possible with our sound design, what we can actually do is play through this in real time. We're performing and creating all of our Foley. All right, and just like that,
you just did that live. You just performed that. You just made that happen, like an instrument, like a
yes,
Foley
like
piano.
Yeah, your computer keyboard is like a piano keyboard, essentially. We have turned every single button into its own sound, as well as you have the ability to create your own custom triggers and sounds that are assigned to those. I could do it again if you'd like.
Let's do it one more time.
All right, we'll do it one more time. And you'll see the numbers, the keystrokes at the bottom kind of going crazy because there's a lot of sounds that are happening very fast here.
Jesus, crazy.
Awesome. And just like that, we again created all the Foley for this scene. And we'll be honest, it's probably not 100% right off the bat. There are probably a few replacements we might want to make here or there. One thing I noticed is that certain sounds were too loud, like the sword clashes and whooshes. I felt like were sticking out of the mix a little bit. But since we have this content-aware timeline that understands the difference between sounds, we can actually just go to our select drop down here, go down to subtype. I can select sword, hit sword. All of the sword hits are selected. I press shift down 3 times. And now all my sword hits are down 6 decibels. I can then do the sword swooshes. I'm actually going to bring those down to like -8, just a little bit quieter than the sword clash themselves. And I think the vocalizations were just a little bit loud as well. So just like that, not only were we able to place all the Foley, but we were able to do some light mixing to all of it as well, in addition to all of our sound design elements. So the last thing we want to...
One other thing just to step in, like we know that most of you aren't going to be doing some crazy scene like this, you know, in real time. You can step through, you can do, if you're using Audio Design Desk alone, you can do it in half speed, third speed. So we're just showing you what it can do once you start to get really good at it. I do it all the time, especially with footsteps. I'll do it in real time. I'm watching the thing for the first time. You get pretty close. But we're not expecting that the very first time you use it, you're going to make a big scene like this. Jared's practiced this two times.
I just wanted to hop in because I'm completely mind blown over here, and I'm watching this, and much like Gabe, my jaw is just hanging down loose. But can you maybe talk a little bit about creating those Foley sounds? Is that about knowing sort of what keystrokes are going to be associated with that? And that's something that you expect the user is going to be going in understanding that? Or is it kind of like it knows sort of what it's going to be, and you can sort of adjust that based on it. So like you said, if maybe one of the sword strokes, you didn't like the sound of it, you would adjust it and then change maybe the decibel level, or change it to a different stroke with the keyboard or something like that.
Yeah. So let's start at the top. The first question is assigning those, it sounded like. So for me, knowing which sounds are on which trigger, that's kind of preference, actually. That's why you're able to drag the sounds onto these individual numbers here. I have it set up that I happen to know I like footsteps in my left hands, because I can focus on that, while since I'm right-handed, my brain is actually just looking at doing all of the like the diegetic, like happening right center of the screen sword clashes in my right hand. So that's something that you can mix and match. You can customize, you can drag triggers around. Like if you start to play along with this and you're like, oh, I wish 6 was actually on 8, you can easily move those. You can easily switch those around. That way you can really just basically build your own keyboard out of those sounds. As far as replacing them, there's multiple ways to go about it. Like if I wanted to replace this specific sounds, it's down.
Can you zoom in on that a little bit?
Yeah, since it's a sword clash here, so that came out of the 6 trigger over here. I pressed 6, and that's how the sword clash got placed. If I were to replace it, it's because I have horror and intense on, but it would have just replaced it with another sword clash from our library, or I could specify that I want a different sword clash from this pool of sounds that I've created by pressing option 6, and I get a whole new sword clash placed right there at that same exact point that I can then
Also
bring right back down in the mix.
there's Shift R as well, which shows kind of all of its siblings and brothers, and so now you can arrow through and be auditioning all of the similar sounds while listening, and then you find the one you want and you hit return, and there it is in the timeline. So
Yep,
That's
a lot
like
of
that.
ways.
I love
A lot
that.
of ways to do it.
Yeah, we like to give people options. We know everyone likes to do things a little bit differently, so we're all about options. Okay, so I went ahead and I muted a lot of these sounds now, so we can focus on the music to tie all of this together. As Gabe said, we could just press the Z key, and let's check on our replace settings. I have element in here, so we could press the Z key, and I have music. And we could replace this in real time. Let's get Final Cut caught up here. And we could, maybe that's the one we wanted for this scene if we were using stock music cues. But since this is a major motion picture, I don't really want to use a stock music cue. I kind of want to create an original score for it. And we can do that just as easily. We're going to delete that. We're going to go back to the beginning here. And in my replace settings here, I'm actually going to, let's see, I'm going to also select cinematic. I want the music to be horror, cinematic, intense, and also I want the music to be organic. So we'll select that as well. And then we can open up our trigger pad, which is going to be more for just visual purposes for everyone out here. And in the trigger pad, if I were to go to the music side, you see we have beat, bass, chord, line, lead, vocal, and I could just click a beat here, and I get a beat added right into my project, and we can listen to that. And we could replace this. Okay, I think that's a good start. We can definitely work with that. And maybe let's add another beat. Okay, that's just a little bit of texture over the top of it. But you'll notice that as I place that sound and replace that music cue, that it was staying in time with the other one. And that's because we actually have tempo stretching turned on up here to the global BPM of 140. So any of our sounds that have any sort of BPM metadata on it are going to automatically stretch to that 140 BPM when this is turned on. That way we can create thousands of new scores on the fly with mixing, matching cues without ever having to worry about them syncing up. So let's also maybe add some percussion over the top of this. Maybe we'll bring that one down, bring this one up. Okay, I think that's really coming together as a solid percussion section. So I'm ready to move on to add some orchestra to this. I just want to start with the bass and see which ones I like here. Okay, I actually really like this one. I do want to duplicate it though, so it finishes out the whole phrase here. So I'll just press Shift D. But I'm also noticing that this bass line came in E minor. So I want the rest of my orchestra cues to come in E minor as well. So I can go to my place settings up here. I can select key, I can select E, and just like we were doing with the tempo stretching, we can actually pitch shift all of our music regions to match each other based on the key that's set. So now any sort of sound that comes in, any music sound that comes in that has any sort of tonality metadata attached to it will match the key of E minor now. So let's click line. Maybe bring the bass up and keep these lower. And that could work. Maybe if we, let's see if there's another one. So move that. Okay. I like that. I think this is really driving, really pulsing, also kind of creepy. I think it's going to work for this scene. So we're just going to go ahead. We're going to move out here a bit. We're going to trim the end of this. Oh, got to grab it. And now I know that I want all of these music cues to match right with my rise here, because that's the moment we're building up to. And that's where I want the music to drop. So I'm just going to select them all, trim them all down to match right up with that. We can go back to the beginning. We can unmute everything and we can listen to what we've created here.
Jared, before you do, will you make Audio Design Desk a little bigger, like bring the top of it up to where the video is in Final Cut Pro?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can see a few more tracks and we don't need to see the FCP timeline. Great.
All right. Awesome. And just like that, we created all the sound for this entire film scene. I can just set my out point, start my export, send it out to any other software that I want to continue editing in. Maybe I want to send it to like Logic or Pro Tools to finish the master. But since we're working with Final Cut here, let's say we want to bring it back into our project. All I have to do is say import project, let it load for a second as it's rendering out our entire timeline for us. And this is where I wish I had an M1, but maybe one day. I'll probably just wait for the M2 at this point. All right, so we have this done, and we can drag this right into our events window in Final Cut. It'll load up here for a second. We have our new demo project with all of our sounds. All I have to do is Command A, Command C, go back to our original project, Command V, and now all of my sounds are in Final Cut. Let's just go ahead and mute all of these so we can listen to it. And Final Cut ready to go. Ooh, gotta go back to the beginning.
We can't hear.
Didn't. All right. Well,
Are you able to hear?
I wasn't either.
Okay. It's probably a setting in Final Cut.
The audio output,
Zoom audio,
but
yeah,
we'll just play this one.
Yeah.
It'll sound.
Crazy.
All right, and we're ready to send that right back out to our director.
Perfect. That is awesome. I'm so impressed every time I see Jared do it, and I've seen him do it a couple of times. One of the things, so I'm going to change my output to Zoom real quick, that I wanted to kind of slow it down just a little bit for you guys. And I don't know if any questions are coming in, by the way. We can just take a second. Have any questions come in?
Nothing right now, but I'll keep my eye out, and if they come in,
let us know.
You will know.
Yeah. So one thing that's kind of crazy to think about in Final Cut, and Final Cut's such a powerful tool, but there's actually not a transport, right? There's no like, there's maybe a play button, but where's my rewind, right? So we've created a transport. So we've got play, fast forwards, go to the end, go to the beginning, go to the next marker, frame by frame, etc. And of course, we also have this scrubber here. So that's the first thing that we've done at the top here. Another thing that we've done is we've created a interface. So I just want to kind of show you how our Final Cut Pro extension works. We have two modes here. One is you can search for different sounds, basically by typing anything from like rock music to, rain, and it'll apply those sounds down into the timeline there. But also we've created this trigger mode. So if I press the letter H, you'll see that it put a hit right there, H for hit. And if I push R, it'll bring in a rise. So you can use this. And if I push play, how did that not work? I think there's something happening with my latest beta build. Give me 1 second here. So if that rise was selected moments ago, let me bring it back to where it was. And we can also replace that sound. So see how the sound down here is replacing. Also, if you click this, it'll update your timeline here. So you are getting a little visual identification, and you can jump from one sound to another using this system. And that way you can jump to a sound and you can quickly replace it. So you actually can control most of the features in Final Cut, in Audio Design Desk from our little widget here. We're just trying to make it as easy as possible. Same with bounce. So if we bounce something, it's going to bounce the selected piece. And when I go to bring it in, you can see that it's visually identified exactly where the in and out points are to make it easy for you to drag in your bounce and line it up right to the exact right place. So there's a few more, things that you can obviously unlock it so that you can be playing freely without being connected, and then relock it, and suddenly the timelines are connected again. And we also can set our in and out points here. So we can say, here's our in, here's our out. Let me place a bunch of sounds on the timeline just randomly, just to get some pretty colors going, because we all like pretty colors. And then when I hit replace here again, you'll see that we've got this identification of the timeline. We've got our in and out points, and then we can X out of that as well. So a lot of the controls that you would need to use this entire thing without even seeing Audio Design Desk, you can just do right from the widget that we've created here. So we can say, as an example, like if we'll say that we're leading up to something right here, like we did earlier. Now I can go in here, I can press the letter R, it'll bring in a rise and go back to the beginning of it. And then when we push play, it will have placed that rise, and it'll play it in the right spot. So that's just kind of a little overview of how kind of easy and quick it is to control the entire system right from our workflow extension, so that you don't have to have Audio Design Desk in the foreground. One other question that we get is, because this is quite big, right? It's quite a big extension. So, and sometimes when you open it, because of Final Cut thing, it's not our fault, it'll open to be this size. So we recommend that everybody bring it down. But people are like, but wait a minute, what if I X out of it, the connection gets lost? You can just click this little yellow button and it'll go away. And so typically this is how I'm working, right here without the widget in the timeline. But for those of you who want to work with just the widget, it's there for you, and we're here for you. So reach out to us, info@add.app. Jared, we could show a couple other things if you're interested. Like we could show for the Frame.io integration, or we could just mention next time. I'm sure we'll be showing off our Adobe Premiere integration, as well as our Blackmagic Resolve integration. Both of those are a little different than the Final Cut Pro integration. There's some really cool tools we're excited to show you about. And we are fully integrated right now with Frame.io. So for those of you that use Frame.io, you can upload, you can download from there. The whole system is built in, like it feels like it's one, thing. So
yeah, and the way the markers pulled from Final Cut, you can pull those markers from Frame.io, and then essentially your director who's leaving comments on your cuts, it could also be doing the sound design at the same time.
So I just wanted to interject here, and I wanted to ask a question, because when it comes to photography, I can hang a little bit. When it comes to audio, when it comes to video, man, I'm ashamed. I don't even want to. I don't even
But see,
want to talk
but you're
about
you're
it.
not alone in that.
I
That's
don't think I am. I don't think I am. And I think there are a lot of people who are kind of trying to bridge that gap from photography over to videography, especially, you know, in the field nowadays. There's no such thing as just being a photographer. Well, maybe. I'm not going to say there is no such thing, but you see more and more people are needing to kind of bridge that gap where they offer, you know, video with photo, and audio obviously is the biggest part of that. Um, Maybe you could talk a little bit, because I was looking on our website. I noticed that, you know, it is a video editor as well, it says. So do you have to have Final Cut? Do you have to, you know, have some sort of video editing software, or can you do light modifications in the actual software itself?
Well, we're not a video editor, but we don't require a video editor to work. So now I'm going to disconnect Final Cut Pro and bring in this great trailer from, I don't know how many of you are excited for this new Marvel show, but I think it looks great. So yeah, you could go in and you could instantly be, you know, building your audio to a video that's just right here in your timeline without Final Cut Pro. And I often work that way. It's part of the Frame.io experience too. If you are uploading to Frame.io, your editor's up on Frame.io. We're integrated with Frame.io. The minute that edit gets uploaded, you'll be alerted. You can just download it and start working on it without being connected to their video editor or something like that.
Okay, makes sense. Now, one other thing I wanted to touch on briefly, because I did also, in viewing on the website, I noticed there's two different versions. There's a pro version, and then there's, we'll call it the unpro version. Maybe you guys can hint on it and explain for somebody who's looking at it and trying to differentiate and see, you know, I'm a big believer. I'm old school. I always believe in go with the best, right? That's a maybe really old school way of viewing things. I know the newer school way of thinking about it is go with what you can afford, which is definitely makes sense. Maybe that's why I'm in debt all the time, but maybe you can explain what you're going to get with the pro version that you don't get with just, you know, the regular version.
There's a few things. I'd say that the biggest of them is your licensing. So for people who are not yet making money and who are making personal projects or like trying to submit to film festivals and things like that, we've created this personal plan so that you can be doing personal projects, things that you are not making money on for, you know, less money to be able to be in it. We also have a few features that aren't included in the personal plan, like XML export, AAF export over to Pro Tools and things like that. Because if you're, you know, not a pro, you don't necessarily need those things. So you can be doing it all right in the box. You can be exporting from, you know, right from Audio Design Desk rather than jumping over to Pro Tools or whatever. We didn't show this, but I just do want to mention we work sort of like a plugin in Pro Tools, in Logic, and some other things. We also make it so that all of those other DAWs, Logic, Pro Tools, Cubase, whatever, will sync with Final Cut Pro. So it's pretty cool. If you want to be mixing in Pro Tools while editing in Final Cut Pro, our system can merge those and have them be dragged along with one another. But back to your question about the plans. So yeah, for people who are making money off their things, they're doing trailers, they're doing promos. There's a higher price, but you get, you know, royalty-free access to all of these 70,000 sounds plus with that plan.
Awesome. And just from a perspective of updates, upgrades, things like that, you know, there's other softwares out there, Photoshop, that, you know, sometimes they'll release something and, you know, you've got to maybe upgrade your package or anything like that. When upgrades do become available, is it something where you can just download them straight from the site, or will it be, you know, like an add-on kind of feature? How does that sort of work?
Yeah. So there's a couple things. So, one is like, just check for updates. Let's see if we have one. There isn't one for me, but so we're constantly updating the system, and we really like feedback. So if people have a feature request or something that they wish was different or simpler or better, we want to hear about that. We're constantly working on this to make it you know, easier to use. So that's how you update. If an update is pushed, you will get a little notification saying, do you want to update? And you can X out of it, or you can elect to update. There's another piece that we're constantly updating, which is our sounds. And so every week we come out with, you can see we have something like 100 packs. Where does it say? 123 packs. Last week we released 189 sounds. The week before it was 732. So we're constantly updating our sounds, and that's another place where we love feedback. Sometimes people are like, we need more music cues, and then suddenly, we released this pack a few weeks ago with 500 more full mix music cues. But some people want more Foley, some people want more rhythmic elements. So we're just constantly updating here. And those technically, so far we've made those available to both the personal and the professional plan, every single pack. Technically, the personal plan, we're not promising that forever, that there will be a difference, so that the professional plan, you're getting some more assets. But that is one other limitation in the personal plan, which is that you only get the M4A files. They sound great. Also, they take up less space, but in the professional plan, you get the WAV files. So you can see it's quite a big difference. It's almost 2 gigabytes with the WAV, and it's 50 megabytes with the M4As. So those are some of the things.
Awesome. I mean, like I said, I completely don't understand anything about audio. And I mean, maybe it's just me, but Jared made that look so seamless and just completely easy. So kudos to you, Jared.
Thank you.
Great job.
Again,
Kudos,
it's just a little bit of practice. That's we make it as simple as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's, if there's one thing I took away from that, I mean, obviously with everything, practice makes perfect. I'm sure that somebody who has a little bit of knowledge and understanding of how all of this actually does work versus me who doesn't, we'll probably be able to go into this pretty easily and seamlessly and just be able to kind of pick it up pretty rapidly. Besides, obviously, the event space, which is great, and B&H having the product available through the page, people who want to keep up, see what's going on, social media wise and things like that. Where are you guys at?
We're everywhere. Yeah. So we're Audio Design Desk. We're pretty active, and we're just getting increasingly active, and we do fun sort of competitions and things like that. There is one other feature I just want to tease to show really quick. I won't go into it, but for those people who do use the sites like Epidemic, where do you get your music as you're making your videos, or do you?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't make any video. I did do some podcasts with video, but that was, I didn't incorporate any sort of sound effects or things like that, which with something like this, I would love to do. It's amazing and looks super simple, but because I'm so terrible with it, I'm like the rest of society. I'm terrified of it. Full disclosure.
For those people, there's a few sites that are very, very popular, including Epidemic Sound and Artlist, Soundstripe, Motion Array. We have a bunch of them in here. We have access to about 20 of them here. But if you are a subscriber to any one of those systems, you can access those systems right inside of our platform, and you can have that same experience where you're connected. Let me get rid of the video here. You're connected to Final Cut Pro. You're searching for your sounds, but you're able to do it through these third-party sites as well. So for those of you who are like, but wait a minute, I love that I get another 70,000 sounds through Audio Design Desk, but I want all of my sounds from Soundstripe. They're all right here. They're all available to you, and we'll tag them and we'll organize them, which which Safari or Chrome or Firefox or whatever you're using won't do. So we're going to keep everything organized. We'll keep it tagged. And we just want to give access to all the sounds in the world. We also have access to Free Music Archive, which has tens of thousands of free music full mix music cues, which is incredible, and to freesounds.org, which has, I think, something like 700,000, almost 1 million free sounds that you can use, and we have access to that right in here too. So through our system, you literally immediately have access to millions of royalty-free sounds and to your various subscription stock media sites.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, now we know that Gabe is never going to talk to me again because he realizes I don't do any video.
Oh no, we're for you. Spend a weekend with us, and next week you're going to be an audio professional. From
There,
audio novice to professional over one weekend.
there you go. I like it. I like the way that sounds.
Like a CrossFit at 4 a.m. I mean, that's
That's it. Well, I want to thank you, Gabe and Jared, for being here. Super duper fun, informative, and just super easy to use, or at least you make it look super easy to use. So hopefully you guys check them out. Go to the B&H website. That's where you can get it. Thank you very much to our sponsors over at Audio Design Desk for sponsoring the event. But that's all the time we have for now. This has been another edition of the B&H Virtual Event Space in the books. We'll catch you all next time.